The biggest threat to an operation isn't labor, variance, speed of service, or turnover, David. In my opinion, it's leaders making decisions about work they no longer understand.
Agree.
Expand and expound.
So, one of the biggest complaints I had as a franchisee, but, and you've heard me say this before, I call it the White Castle syndrome in the sky, is that franchisors, the people that own the brand, that license the brand to the franchisees, you have a lot of employees in the organization that are hired for specific things, from marketing to, increasing AUV accounts, everything. And the intentions may be good, that, hey, we want to help the franchisee increase their AUV. We want to help the franchisee become more profitable. Or we want to offer some LTOs to the customer, limited time only, food items to the customer. But I think that a lot of these people, especially those people that have never worked in a in-store setting, a customer-facing setting, forget about disruption at the store level. And any disruption at the store level, even though the intention is good, any disruption impacts throughput. And as we discussed, throughput is profit.
Yeah, and there was a time for, I don't know, at least months where I was starting to wonder if I was crazy with some of these.
Well, you are. But.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think you got to be.
QSR has to be crazy, right? Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was on my way to work one day and I was listening to an episode of the Jocko podcast, and
great.
He was talking about how command can be out of touch with frontline. Mm-hmm. And I forget if it was himself or he brought up a story where during his time in Baghdad, where an officer, he saw at the time officers would routinely get flown in who outranked people who had combat experience. But these officers that outranked them had no combat experience, and yet the people that they were giving orders to had all the experience and they didn't. And so they're completely out of touch with the front line. Mm-hmm. And what fools they would have been, they being the officers that outranked them, that got flown, that if they didn't listen to the guys who have been shot at, right, who've watched their friends die, who've killed bad guys, and said, hey, sir, I appreciate your mandates and your orders, but I'm just telling you this is what's really going down, and if we do that, there might be some high casualties involved with that. Why that humility doesn't exist in QSR with franchisees and above restaurant leaders, I'm scratching my head.
So I think that depending on the position and what it is, if my charge, let's say I'm in the corporate offices, and my charge is to come up with ideas to help the franchisees increase their AUV. I am so focused on that charge that I don't take into account disruption. I don't take into the front line. I think there's a certain, arrogance in I know what I'm doing in my job to increase AUVs, and how dare a minimum wage employee make a suggestion, that kind of thing. There's a little bit of arrogance there, but the front-facing employee, the customer-facing employee, probably knows the operation better, much better than the franchisee, much better than the district manager, the senior district manager, the director of operations, the guy in the White Castle in the sky coming up with ideas. The front-facing person knows the operation better than anyone. And that front-facing person does include the restaurant manager, because they're front-facing, right?
Yeah, and I'm not insinuating that ARLs have never been on the front line. No. But the further you get from the front line, I think the more dangerous you become. If you haven't worked a shift in, I would say, 6 months or longer, then maybe you shouldn't be telling people how to run it.
Well, yeah.
Well, right? I mean, with how fast things change in QSR, if you have not run a shift in 6 months or longer, it's like you don't have the, because it comes back to, again, I'm a certified copywriter. So with marketing, there's going to come a point in the copy, which is another word for advertisement, where the person who's reading it or who's watching the commercial is going to ask the question, why should I listen to you? And there's two things that a person selling you a product, service, or idea has to do. They have to display empathy and they have to demonstrate competency. Now, they being the ARLs and franchisees, might have the competency piece, but if they're so far removed, 6 months or longer, maybe, and we can debate how long that is, you begin to lose empathy. And if you can't feel the pain and the struggle that the frontline people are going through, well, then, I mean, your message isn't going to land. I mean, I think the reason why Bill Clinton won the election in '92 is because of his speech that he gave, and it started out with 4 words: "I feel your pain." Empathy.
Yeah, I agree.
Empathy.
I mean, I agree, and I agree with empathy. However, I, as a franchisee, do not want my above area restaurant leaders working a shift in a store, because then I have the most expensive, crew member in the country. If they're making sandwiches, building tacos, making burgers, whatever. So I think a good rule of thumb is that, are they soliciting advice? Are they soliciting the crew member? Are they soliciting the RGM's advice? But not just soliciting, listening, hearing, and where necessary, acting on it. I mean, I've gotten advice from crew members that I didn't act on. It's like, well, I'm not going to act on that even, but in general, I don't want to say rule by consensus, because that's not, because there are times where you have to make hard decisions, whether people like them or not, right? That's why I say that whatever decision you're making as an above area leader, your foremost forefront thought needs to be, how is this going to disrupt throughput? Is it or isn't it going to disrupt throughput?
And so, so I'm in agreement with you that you don't want your DMs and your regionals working a shift per se, but I don't know what other solution there is, David, if people aren't going to listen to their frontline workers. No, because if you're not going to listen, then how about you come down here and you run this store?
Well, you need to listen, and you need to hear, and you need to evaluate the advice. However, we know franchisees that have 200, 300, 400 stores, and they're the president, the CEO of the company. How do they? You can't ask them, I don't think, to make a decision without first soliciting every RGM that they have in their organization. Because there are decisions that I had to make as a franchisee that, I didn't necessarily say, I'm going to go ask every crew member what their opinion of my decision that I'm going to make. So how do you, and we talked a lot about, we don't want our above area leaders working 2 or 3 rungs down the organization either. So how do you propose? You were a senior district manager, right? And you oversaw, at one time you were a senior district manager, you oversaw 16 stores, correct? Mm-hmm. You had to make some decisions. Granted, you weren't that far removed from working in the stores, but it had been more than 6 months since you had worked in a store. Mm-hmm. And you had to make some decisions that you had to make. And you had to enforce those decisions based upon your direct report telling you we need to solve this problem. Mm-hmm. You did not go and solicit every single crew member's opinion about the decision that you were going to make. So how did you make decisions empathetically?
It went both ways, top down, but then bottom up,
right,
as well. So I trusted my DMs to convey information to their restaurant managers, to convey information to their sandwich artists, but then also I had to be receiving as messages came back up to me. And sometimes I wasn't sure what was going on, and so I would have to go into a store to see it. Like, oh, okay, yep, and now I got it, right? Does that mean that I necessarily had to work an entire lunch shift to figure it out? No, but it's like, okay, here's the problem, right? So, right, and then kind of go from there. But it was an open line of communication, top down, but then also bottom up, and that's the part that's missing.
So
that's the part that's missing, is the bottom up, and it's not some corporate bullshit company survey that's a box to check, right? And like make ourselves feel good about everything that we're doing and say something nice about the person to our right. Like, no, like it has to be genuine. Like,
and that is
you can talk about creating a culture where you feel valued and heard, but if there isn't any evidence to back that up, well, then it's just lip service.
So the free flow of information, bottom up, is more important than top down, in my opinion.
Yes.
But the free flow of information and your employees feeling comfortable giving that free flow of information is a direct result of culture. And we talked a lot about culture. And, I had gotten, there were times where I made decisions based upon information that I received from you, that you received from one of your DMs, that they received from one of their restaurant managers, right?
Yes.
And it probably was a decision that I had no idea that I needed to make until that free flow of information came up.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, how many times I was at a meeting once with this company that I worked for one time, and there was the cream of the crop there in terms of these were certified managers, not in the sense of just an everyday restaurant manager, but it was like a little bit of an clinical, not conceited, upper echelon.
Okay.
And we were being scolded about all of the misses that were happening at the store level in terms of certain initiatives and training and all of this. And at first, I had this knee jerk. I was just like, but then peers sitting around me started raising their hands and saying, well, we don't have the labor hours to do that. And that's when I talked to you on the phone about it, because it's like, if it's your typical restaurant manager, it's like, okay, well, I mean, do you just not know how to work hard, or do you have really bad time management skills? But this was a different type of class, so to speak. And so then when all those hands started going up and everybody's just saying the same thing, and people who had been in this position way longer than I had been in it, I'm just like, okay, maybe there is something to this.
Right. It's not just one lazy manager.
Yeah.
It is, my strong leaders, and it's not just one strong leader, it's multiple strong leaders that are bringing this to the forefront. I as a franchisee or an above restaurant leader better take a hard and serious look at this.
Yeah, but then that's the problem, is that we
not only should I take a hard and serious look at it, I need to make a change.
They need to make a change, because it's more than one person and it's a different cut. It's your cream of the crop,
right.
People saying this to you. It's not they don't need to essentially be told in some sort of wolf in sheep's clothing, corporate speak to manage your time better, do more, and work harder. That's not the solve.
Yeah, I very much appreciate your input, and we will be evaluating this based upon all your input. Period.
Yep.
And then nothing ever happens.
Yep.
Nothing ever changes,
Yep.
or there's no feedback back.
Yep.
You know, yeah.
And it's so interesting because I've heard from above restaurant leaders that feedback is a gift. It's like, okay, but it's only a gift when it's coming top down, not bottom up.
Right.
How hypocritical.
Right.
They're just like football coaches. And there was a time when I spent a good amount of my career in the strength and conditioning industry. And if you're familiar with that industry, you know the battle that happens more often than not between the strength and conditioning coach and the football head coach as far as physical preparation of the team. And you got the football coach saying, well, we want to be strong in the fourth quarter, so we're just going to run our guys into the ground. And the strength coach is like, brother, we're not going to make it at the fourth quarter if we keep digging our guys in a hole they can't climb out of before Friday night, right? But so they want all of this, but then they're always garnering or bringing in speakers or going to these clinics and continuing education junkies that they are, and to sharpen their sword, so to speak. But then they never actually do anything about it. I mean, I had this friend who would always ask me for diet advice, and I just stopped giving it to him. Because he didn't want to eat healthy, David. He wanted to be told how he was eating was healthy.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the same thing with football coaches. They don't want to change. They're looking for a voice in the wilderness somewhere to tell them what they're doing is the best thing since sliced bread. And it's the same thing with frickin' above restaurant leaders. So we're going to do this, and this. And by the way, all these changes, you're also still going to hit that labor number, by the way. Right, because let's just to hell with throughput and profit and all those things. Let's focus on a controllable and cut our way to profit as you talk about what a self-sabotaging activity that is.
It is. You can never cut your way to profitability.
But I say all that I get all long-winded and tangential about that. Just come back to the point where it's just like, it has got to be bottom up even more so than top down. Yeah, okay, great. Like, I get it. If you're a franchisee, corporate's going to do what corporate's going to do, and they're going to have new FAF kits and new menu items and all these LTOs. Yeah. Okay, and that's great. But then as the franchisee, step in and protect your people to either deploy the resources necessary to make the disruption as least disruptive as possible.
Right, as seamless as possible. Or does the franchisee or the above restaurant leader, depending upon what's delegated to them, say, this is coming down from corporate. The idea behind this promotion is to raise our AUVs or to, help us cut food cost or whatever. Then does that person evaluate it and say, for my organization to put this in place, I need to change this or I need to do X? When we talked with Mike DeJong, a great podcast, watch that if you haven't. But when we talked with him, and we talked a lot about SOPs. We talked a lot about SOPs, and one of the things that he drove home the point of, and we echoed, was that some franchisees or some franchisors in QSR restaurants write a SOP, and they treat it like the Ten Commandments, that it was written in stone by God's fingertip, instead of, we need to reevaluate our SOPs even monthly, maybe. So if I'm getting something coming down from corporate that may be a disruption to my employees, I need to reevaluate my SOPs to make it as least disruptive as possible for them. Also, engaging with them and asking for their advice. Hey, I haven't worked in a restaurant in 15 years as a franchisee. this is what's going to happen. This is something that is coming down from the franchisor. I have to follow it as a franchisee. Tell me how we can accomplish this, Mr. or Mrs. Restaurant Manager.
I don't know if that level of humility exists with a franchisee or somebody in a C-suite position. Yeah, but you're also built different. I don't think that exists. I think that's a dying breed of franchisees or ARLs or chief operating officers to be like, just admit that. Just admit that, because what they'll do is they'll go back to their past wins, or they'll go back to their time as well. When I was a restaurant general manager, okay, yeah, like back in the fucking
ago,
Stone Age, yeah, things are a little bit different now and there, bud, right? Like, why can't you just lead with humility and just be honest? Just be honest. Like, that's the problem, is that ARLs, franchisees, COOs, whatever the case may be, they're afraid to look stupid. They're afraid to look stupid. And there's nothing wrong with looking stupid. In fact, you actually earn the respect of your people. By the way,
I looked stupid all the time. But I think all of this goes back. I was thinking a lot about this last week because we've been talking a lot about culture, and I think, and I want to solicit your advice too on this and get. To me, culture is the biggest driver of profits. It's the biggest tool for success. Mm-hmm. It's easy for me to have a KPI for food costs, to have a KPI for labor costs, to have a KPI for waste, to have what are KPIs for culture? And so I wrote down some. How can I measure culture if I'm saying culture is the biggest impact on profitability? Mm-hmm. And there's a tie into what we've been talking about.
Okay.
But so I wrote, what KPIs can I look at as a franchisee or as a manager or an above restaurant leader to determine the culture of a store?
Okay.
Number one is turnover rate.
Okay.
I think number two is 90-day retention rate.
Okay.
Let me see what else I wrote down. Attendance rate. Mm-hmm. Did I write call off rate? How many people are calling off?
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Training completion time. By that I mean, how fast does a new hire become fully productive? Mm-hmm. Internal promotion rate. How many of my people have been internally promoted, and not just because they wanted to have a tick mark, but because they were qualified to be internally promoted? Mm-hmm. Employee engagement score. Mm-hmm. And this is the one that I think ties into what we've been talking about. Does the employee feel valued? Does the employee trust their direct reports, trust their manager, trust their above restaurant leader? Would they recommend this job to someone else? And I think that ties in, that's a good KPI. Manager stability. How long do my managers stay in the role? Stable managers obviously create stable teams, right? Mm-hmm. Customer experience scores. Labor variances, overtime rate, employee referrals. Those are the 12 that I wrote down as measurable KPIs to tell me if I have a good culture or a bad culture. What would you add to that or subtract from it?
Do you have a recognition program?
Yeah. A genuine recognition program, not a fake recognition program.
Yeah. So do you have a
sending a box of sending some cookies because they did a fast drive-through time? That's not a.
Yeah, food isn't a reward for hard work.
Yeah.
Like what?
Sometimes the attaboy is a bigger recognition than sending them some cookies, right?
Yeah, I mean, unless they genuinely want it, like, hey, right. If they come to you and like, I've had some teams kind of be like, hey, Hunter, like, you know what I'm craving? Wings. Done. I'll walk across the street to Little Caesars right now. What's flavor you want,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, do you have a employee of the month program? Do you have
Right.
a most improved? That's something that my assistant at the store that I'm at now, he implemented, was a most improved employee of the month
You know what?
program there.
I think I like that better than. I think I like that better than the VIP employee of the month. I like the most improved employee of the month.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that would I think mine are even, I don't know, I wouldn't say less measurable, but more like pass or fail.
Right.
Right. Is there recognition? No, you fail. Right.
Yeah.
Then your culture sucks if you don't have a
Well,
recognition program.
You know, as a
Right.
as a franchisee, and the further we get up, you know, away from the store, the more we look at data. Mm-hmm. I mean, you understand that, and you did that when you had 16 stores, and you were, you know, and what your furthest away store was 3 hours away or something like that, right? You weren't at that. You couldn't be at that store every day. You had to look at the data from that store to be able to see, is that store doing well or not well, and you know, do I need to make a visit there because the data keeps coming back bad or whatever. So I wanted measurable data that I could look at to determine the culture of a store. So that then, you know, and so I was looking for measurable data points like turnover rate, that's measurable. I can look and, you know, their turnover rate's at 50%, their turnover rate's 140%. That's, you know, obviously the 50% store's got great turnover rate. What's their 90-day retention rate? You know,
But there's a devil's advocate portion when it comes to the retention rate and turnover rate, because there are some bad apples who need to be excised, but due to certain policies,
right. So
right? So the retention rate doesn't tell the whole story.
So retention is a measure of culture. Retention is not culture. Retention doesn't drive culture. Retention is just a KPI of culture. However, the one thing that I said that a leader, a franchisee, can never, ever delegate is culture, correct? You cannot delegate culture. You are responsible for culture. You cannot delegate culture to someone else. You define the culture of your store. So if the most important thing to me is culture, and and there is someone that is harming culture, they're gone.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about, you know, because if they stay, my retention rate's going to go horribly because all my other people are going to leave. So if I'm so worried about retention rate, and I get, you know, sometimes, you know, and I don't, you know, that's kind of like the hidden lines on a P&L is that people don't realize the cost of firing or hiring. But they also don't evaluate the cost of keeping the bad apple on. The expense of keeping the bad apple on. You know, the average crew member nationwide.
14 days.
No, that's 90-day retention. That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So the average cost of replacement, just for the average hourly wage, you know, frontline employee, just the average cost of replacing them is about $4,000. Going all the way up to the restaurant manager, depending upon your brand, your AUVs, those kind of things, you can be pushing $75,000 plus. So I think some people get so caught up in that to replace that person, it's going to cost $10,000 for a shift lead, $25,000 for an assistant, $25,000 to $35,000 probably, and an RGM probably $50,000 to $75,000 plus. That they get so worried about litigiousness which how many times have I been threatened to be sued?
There was a time when I was sitting with you in your office, and you, after you had just let somebody go, and you just got a text, and it said, you showed me the text, and it said, "Lawyer up, get ready."
Oh, yeah. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But that they don't take, they're so afraid of getting sued, or they're so afraid of the cost of replacing an employee that they don't factor into the damage to your profitability that having that bad apple is doing to culture.
Mm-hmm.
Culture drives profitability. My number one concern is culture.
You know what it is? You know what that is? I met with a mentor of mine this past week, maybe last weekend, a week ago today.
Okay.
And he said that a mentor of his with the Pet Supplies Plus franchise.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
He got paid 5 figures to fly around the country just to fire people because the people that hired him were deathly afraid of handling conflict.
Okay.
Are you kidding me? And so that's what that is it's a symptom of that, which is a lack of leadership. You are so afraid to deal with conflict that you're going to just let a cancer hang on and just infect and harm other people. I mean, it's no wonder why the mental health is in the shitter in this industry, because we have no leadership who's going in there and excising these cancers from the stores.
Right. So I say this a lot, difference between nice and kind. And there is a huge, huge difference between nice and kind.
It's crazy.
The nice manager avoids any and all conflict because they want to be nice. I don't want to call you out. I don't want to have a sit down. I don't want to have a one-on-one with you and say, hey, you need to improve here, here, and here. You're doing this really well. Mm-hmm. Let's improve here. And oh, by the way, I really liked how you handled that customer the other day. See the sandwich? Mm-hmm. The kind manager has those conversations. The kind manager recognizes that this may be my number one performer, but they're hurting my culture big time. Let's have a conversation with them. And it may just be a coaching conversation, but it may be a termination conversation. Culture is most important. Protect it at all costs.
And you wonder why
good culture, not bad culture.
And you wonder why our GMs and shift leads and et cetera just all of a sudden just stop speaking up. They just don't talk anymore. They don't give their opinion because they're not heard. And then they just suffer in silence. They silently resign. They're totally checked out. They're just a zombie on the shift, right? And it's so sad because we're keeping this person who's a complete dipshit and just a suck on everything. Meanwhile, this person over here who's totally just silently resigned could be the next
quietly quit. Yeah,
could be the next RGM of that store, if not above restaurant leader that the entire freaking company really needs. But they're not heard. They're not heard, and they're not valued. But the people that are creating the problems they are valued. Well, what do you mean they're valued? Well, why aren't they, like, they still have a job, don't they? Like, we're protecting the wrong people.
Right. So, yeah, one of the things that I hope people get out of this is that culture is just as measurable as food cost, labor percentage, waste. It can be just as measurable. You just have to make sure you got the right measurements in place. But culture can be just as measurable. If I have a turnover rate of 130%, there's a culture problem in my store. Mm-hmm. If I have a 14-day, 90-day retention problem, there's a culture problem in my store. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I have a consistent call-off problem, there's a culture problem in that store. If I have consistent no-shows, there's a culture problem in my store. if it is taken.
Well, culture is synonymous with leadership.
Yeah, exactly. And we've alluded to that before, right? Mm-hmm. So.
Because then you know what happens? The Hawthorne Effect. Do you know what the Hawthorne Effect is? Hey, we got a menu change is coming up, right? Or, hey, so-and-so is going to be in town. And then for 30 minutes, when so-and-so walks through the store, everybody is just a completely different person.
Right.
Like this, it's a dog and pony show.
Yep.
Right? So you see how much of that happens in this industry as well. Oh, let's make sure that everything is the way that it's quote-unquote supposed to be, right? Just so the powers that be can feel good about their operation, right? But that goes back to the frickin' quote that I said in the beginning. Like, the biggest threat to an operation isn't labor, variance, speed of service, or turnover. It's leaders making decisions about work they no longer understand. Right? You have no idea what's going on in the store. You have no idea.
So, yeah.
None.
I mean, obviously, as a franchisee, as a senior district manager, you're called on to make decisions all the time. And your decisions have a direct impact on the store. You know that. But you haven't worked in a store in 6 months, or you haven't worked in a store in 2 years or 3 years. Yeah, you visited a store for an hour or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but you haven't worked the store. Then it behooves you to get as much information as possible by, talking to that person that, that's, your crew member.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, tell me about the process that you go through for making a sandwich or making a taco, or, how's that look like? What things slow you down? They let you know.
I mean, there's even there's nuance to it where you might be like, I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, here's an example. Right now, tacos have never been easier to make because the way that they come out of the box, they have a much wider berth, right?
Okay.
Way easier to put beef and lettuce and cheese in a taco that looks like this versus some of the batches that we get, they're like this.
So
then how are you gonna scoop beef and put it into a taco with less than an inch gap as opposed to one with 3 inches?
But if I am,
but you know what I'm saying? So it's those little nuances that like a kid working a line is gonna be like, this is a huge difference, right? But if we get a batch that's like this and we're wondering, well, why aren't these new initiatives being met? It's like, well, look at the yellow taco shells that you gave us, dipshits. Like, right?
But if I am, let's say I'm the person that's 7 people removed from that guy who's saying it slows us down if the tacos are this skinny, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the guy, 7 people removed from that guy, who is the person that is dealing with the purveyor who supplies my tacos, correct? I'm the decision maker for the purveyor who supplies the tacos. That information, that free flow, bottom up information has to be encouraged to get that to me, because I have no idea the tacos are coming in too narrow, right? I'm just ordering taco shells, but hopefully the free flow of bottom up information that gets to me through the RGM, through the, the above restaurant leaders, the DO, whoever, that information gets to me, and I'm like, I should go check this out.
Yeah, and that thing that I wrote in the beginning on my pad here isn't necessarily a negative or a bad thing. Just because you no longer understand the work that you're making decisions about doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. Let it be liberating. No, I don't understand what's going on, so please.
But then
people, service people in the window, please tell me. Yeah. Please tell me. Please tell me what's going on so I can make better decisions to make your life easier.
But if I'm the guy buying the tacos, right? I'm the guy that's contracting with the distributor to buy the tacos. And I get this information filtered up to me. I better go into a store and look at the tacos. And not just, my position doesn't involve me going into a store, but I should go into the store and watch 10, 15 tacos being made and maybe time them.
Then that brings up a whole nother can of worms. Like when you go into the store, then have that single-minded focus. In my opinion,
Right?
In my opinion,
Yeah. Don't look
because
around,
above restaurant leaders and people in C-suite positions can come into a store and immediately just pick out everything that's wrong
Sure.
and start just tearing a team down when they don't even know your fucking name,
Right.
dude. Who the fuck are you? Right?
I'm here to look at tacos, and you know what?
Like you're nobody to them. You're nobody, right? And it's like
You're there to look at tacos. You're
Yeah.
not there to hear if they followed the drive-through script word by word.
right,
Right.
yeah.
Because if you start saying, I went into this store as the guy who's in charge of buying taco shells, and then I overheard someone not word for word repeating the drive-through script, so then I call the above restaurant leader, whoever I communicate, the DO, and then it gets back to the RGM that, hey, Joe Blow is in your store and you guys aren't following the drive-through script. There goes culture.
There goes culture because you have,
And
because one thing because one thing that I mean I've never had that happen to me, but one thing I do tell my people, and I think we've talked about this before on previous podcasts, it's like listen to the tonality of the customer.
Mm-hmm.
If they're curt and short, they don't want the script today, bro.
Right, yeah.
Just get them to the window. You're doing them a better service by just getting them to the window.
We try.
You got to have that social agility to be able to do that. That was a tangent. Keep going.
No, but I want to come back to that because that's a biggie. But the other thing that it does then is that immediately stops that bottom-up free flow of information that I may need to make the decision that I'm going to make. So then I just keep making decisions without this bottom-up free flow of information.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I'm making decisions that are having a serious impediment on my store's operation. And then guess what happens? Profitability is gone.
Mm-hmm. Profitability is gone. RGMs, shift leads, people just stop speaking up.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that one meeting that I was at, and I told you that a peer of mine from another state, he just said, "You said something that we
all wanted to say,
but we were too afraid to say."
Yeah.
Does that scream culture or what?
Yeah. I mean, your employees should never be afraid to give you feedback, both negative and positive.
Right.
They should. You know, we're not hiring kiss asses. We don't want kiss asses. Because if we do, there goes profit. You know, I mean, the back to the script thing that you talked about, we had an initiative, and it was before your time. And, you know, we had kind of a script, you know, and greet the customer within this many minutes and then say this and right? Mm-hmm. And we had an initiative that I really liked, and it ended up going by the wayside. I wish we would have pushed it more. But it was reading the customer. And, hey, it's okay to change what you say. You know, this
Call an audible.
Yeah.
You hear
exactly.
in sports all the time. Like,
you know, read the customer. Can you read the customer? Are they tapping their hands on the counter? You know that customer wants to get through the line quick, get their food, and go out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So stop with the 50 questions on the way down. If they say, I want this, with that, don't ask them any other questions. Give them this, with that. Check them out, let them go. Then you get the customer that comes in, and, I mean, you've had a lot of these. You're really good at this, you know, that they just want to shoot the breeze with you all day long.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, we've had customers that employees have gone and sat down with them in the dining room to continue the conversation.
Just last night, this happened. So again, my I can't not give him credit for this. BK, a guy who works for me, he had us vote on who the most improved employee of the month should be, and this one guy came into the store during dinner, didn't know how to use the kiosk. I went out there and helped him with it, get his order out, and then we was a little bit of a lull, so I just poked my head around the corner, and I knew his first name, and then so I just said, "How's the food, Ken?" And I couldn't hear him, and so then I went out to the dining room, and we just started talking. He's like, "Yeah, this is different. I've never had this before," and I thought, hey, I got 4 hours of stuff to do tonight, and I thought I might just get a taco on my way home. I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm an engraver." I'm like, "Really? Talk to me more about that." He's like, "Oh, I just engrave things on steel, like awards and things like that." I'm like, "Wait a minute. So, could you do like a metal disc or like with a stand here, just a little piece of real estate? Because we're trying to recognize some employees here, and and now that's going to be our guy, right?"
Well, think about, and I'm going to use his nickname. Think about Whitey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Whitey was my first dollar bill at that store.
Yeah.
Whitey was an every single day customer since that store opened.
Yep.
And that every single employee learned when Whitey came in, you go sit and have a 2-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute conversation with him. Mm-hmm. And if you were busy, he understood that, but you made time for him.
Because he was going to be there a while.
And
he laid out his newspaper.
Right.
Yeah.
And
newspaper.
if I could, he did newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in 2025, 24, he was doing newspaper. But if I could put a dollar amount on Whitey's head.
Oh, as far as like client lifetime value?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was so valuable to me that as a franchisee, I had no problem with paying an employee for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, a half an hour to sit there and talk with him. Mm-hmm. Because you know how valuable he was?
It's like buying $20 bricks of gold for $5.
Yeah.
If $20 bricks of gold were on sale for $5, how many would you buy? As many as you possibly could.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But so then there are franchisees that I know that then would have looked and said, why is that employee sitting down talking with that customer? They've been sitting there for 15 minutes. That's waste of labor dollars.
Yeah. That's the whole fucking problem, David.
Right.
Is that if there's one KPI that always gets in the way, it's that one.
But it's then you don't know and I did not know Whitey until I was introduced to Whitey by employees, right? Mm-hmm. But they made a point of telling me this is Whitey. And then, I started adding the dollars in my head. But, so whenever I walked into that store and there was someone sitting down in the dining room talking to Whitey, I was just like, yeah. Good job, instead of being the other franchisee and walking into the store and like,
oh, is that what I'm paying you to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I think there's a lot to unpack here. You, above restaurant leaders, but even RGMs need to, you need to foster a culture in your store where your employees feel that they can come to you and say, Hunter, this is BS, and this is why, instead of just, oh, you're such a great manager, I just love you, Hunter, you're so good. If that's all you hear and you're not getting any critiques, evaluate yourself. But the same thing for restaurant, trying to unpack the whole podcast here. You need to foster an environment where it's okay, where the most recent hire feels comfortable saying, giving you negative and positive.
Yeah.
You need to foster that bottom-up environment.
Yeah. It reminds me of a time where, so Derek Hansen, if you don't know who Derek Hansen is, look him up. He's probably, in my opinion, I'm biased, the leading sprint authority on planet Earth. And so he used to be my mentor. And he actually helped me transform physically from 300-pound powerlifter to NCAA sprinter in 15 months. And since that whole transformation was documented, and when my first race went live on my social media, I mean, it exploded. And then, since there was so much traction on it, he actually invited me to where he lives to stay with him in Vancouver, and he promoted it, calling it the Hunter Gathering. And this was in August of 2019. And physios and sport coaches and other sprint coaches all flew in for this week-long
Workshop.
yeah. And I was just a test subject all week. And so they would watch me work out. They would watch me lift weights. They'd watch me come on up blocks. They'd watch me do max velocity. They would do manual therapy and massaging with me and all of these different things. And Derek encouraged feedback from everybody, especially the kids who were just out of school, because that was one thing that he always said. He's just like,
Fresh
eyes,
yeah.
right? I've been a sprint coach for 40 years, but this person here, he might see something that I don't, right? That's leadership.
Yeah, encourage that. Encourage fresh eyes. Encourage, I used to always say this to you, I'm just another pair of eyes, Hunter, right? Encourage that. Encourage the bottom-up feedback, not just the top-down stuff, the bottom-up stuff. So I hope that you get that out of this podcast, and I also hope that you get culture is measurable. Culture has KPIs attached to it.
Mm-hmm. So with that, as far as, I guess this would be the part that you call the call to action portion of the show. If you liked it, share it, subscribe to it. We're getting some good feedback, having some exciting guests coming up in the queue.
Oh, yeah. 5-star rating or review.
Right. Go to Hunter.
We have some great guests coming.
Oh, yeah. Some big-time heavy hitters.
Yeah. That's the tease. That's all the tease you're getting.
Yeah. Go to HunterCharneski.com and download a free case study. If you're an overworked manager and you want to become a promotable leader in 28 days, go ahead and grab that. If you're a franchisee who's got overworked managers who want to become promotable leaders so you can fast-track profit, go to HunterCharneski.com. Download that free case study. It's 100% free, okay? And go to Amazon.com. Pick up the book, The Way Out of Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery, because I think we talked a lot about self-sabotaging activities today from leaders who are making decisions about work they no longer understand. With that, we will talk to you guys next time.
Have a great one.